mix.
Excited to see how it'll play out for sure. Yeah, Corey's deck playing the Greedent VMAX, definitely a little unexpected. Greedent VMAX is one of those cards that it's popped up in Lugia here and there. There was a player who got, I think, top 16 or top 32 in LAIC with it, lost the winning in. I think at one of the European regionals, it was like just outside of the top 8 there once again as well. So it's a card that has popped up every now and again. I don't know how vital it's going to be in the Lugia mirror match, though.
Yeah, it doesn't line up exactly for this matchup. It's more so really good for destroying Comphase.
Yeah, for
when
sure.
you're playing against all those lost boxes. When you just take 3 prize cards, have a Pokemon with 320 hit points in the active that can nowhere near be knocked out, and then you easily just line up another boss's orders. It's a pretty great way to win a game in 3 turns. But maybe there's a chance. Perhaps we see a Dunsparce fall by the wayside, and Corey sneaks in some prize cards. He's got some gimmicks. We see the Ditto V as well, so could come out of nowhere with the greediness.
Prize cards going out for these players. We do see that Ditto V on Corey's end. That Dunsparce, not too big of a deal in this matchup. On Ciaran's side, did prize that Bird Keeper. He does play Snorlax as an attacker. It's actually kind of been one of Ciaran's signature cards, the Snorlax in Lugia. He was one of the early adopters of that. Feels like many players have moved on from it, but he said, you know what? This card is still really solid. It does a lot of damage. You stack a powerful energy or 2 on there, you're knocking just about any Pokemon V out for 1 attack. Is pretty strong. It does have the downside of putting itself to sleep, so we'll see if that Bird Keeper matters or not.
Yeah, I think we saw a lot of that popularity in Oceania, but not so much when we returned to Knoxville.
Right.
But here we are once more. Great opportunity here in Vancouver for both of these players to get to 29 match points and get closer to locking in a day 2, or top 8.
Top 8, yes. Corey does get to go first here. Starts off with an Ultra Ball, getting rid of an Archeops right away, and a Marnie. Expect to see this go for an Archeops, as I do think he did already have a Quick Ball in the hand.
And we talked about it. There's a few Pokemon that line up against the Greedent.
Is this what this whole game is going to be? Us just cheering for Corey to go for the Greedent?
Take the little guy, knock him out. Absolutely. I think that's what everybody's looking for.
Yeah.
But you still have to play the rest of the game, and that generally starts with getting Archeops into the discard pile. And that's a good sign if you're rooting for Corey, as you see the Archeops go straight to the hand there, and it's likely going to fall into the discard pile right here with a Quick Ball.
And look at this deck here from Corey. I think every single card is gold or full art.
That is
no, except the Lugia. Except the Lugia.
Almost worth the price of admission, but we'll take it. The rest of it's pretty blinged out.
Yeah, still, even though it's not the alt art or full art Lugia, you still get the Lugia V, put it onto the bench, exactly what you want to do. Radiant Charizard's always a little bit of an awkward starter in this deck. It can't attack until much later in the game with its Excited Heart ability, unless you commit a ton of energy cards to it. And it also has a 3 retreat cost. Corey did get the bare minimum here, got the Lugia V down, a couple Archeops in the discard pile. Excellent turn 1. Ciaran now with a pretty solid hand of his own, has Lumineon, and it looks like double Ultra Ball in this hand as well.
Yeah, this is probably going to lead to Ciaran also playing out the entire hand as well. And then we have that Lumineon that could likely search out for whatever the supporter choice is. Typically, when you're playing in this mirror match, you always go for the Marnie to start things off. But Corey was able to play down the hand pretty solidly. We saw the 2 Archeops at the discard pile. The Lugia is benched, and there's only 3 cards in hand. So we actually may see Ciaran just go aggressive, go for a supporter like that Professor's Research, and try to improve their own board.
I think it's actually tough here for Ciaran to go for a research because he has both his Lugia V-Star in his opening hand.
That is tricky.
Yeah, he Ultra Balled away this first one, and his second one is sitting there in the hand. So, yeah, it's absolutely going to be tough to figure out exactly how he wants to play this out. You love to see double Ultra Ball, but in this spot, I don't know that Ciaran's going to be able to pull off getting 2 Archeops in the discard pile.
Yeah, we'll see if there's a strategy potentially with the use of the Oranguru. That is a card featured in the list. But the way I see this hand right now, if you want to get the Archeops into the discard pile, it is kind of tricky. Might end up just being Marnie and put the Lugia on the bottom of the deck.
Maybe there's a world here where this second Ultra Ball gets a Oranguru, and then you put the V-Star on top and then play Research right off the Lumineon, but it looks like instead he will go for the Lugia V. I mean, that is absolutely one of the most important things to get down because your deck revolves around getting that turn 2 Summoning Star V-Star power. I guess the question here is, does Ciaran, how much does he value going for, say, the second Lugia V, right? Corey only has 3 cards in hand, like you mentioned. How likely is it really, with Charizard in the active, for Corey to pull off a turn 2 boss KO on a 1 Lugia V?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look great, but also it doesn't take too many cards. You just need Lugia V-Star and a way to search out the Luminion for the boss's orders. You can easily get all those energies onto the Radiant Charizard and deal 230 damage with the double turbo, so that's not too much to ask of, but this is just going to be a pass of the turn holding the Luminion. It's going to be tough. And maybe Corey has the cards. We'll find out.
He almost does. If he had a Lugia V-Star, he could do it because he's got this quick ball to go find his own Luminion. But as of now, the one piece he's missing is the V-Star. So it's going to work out here for Ciaran. I don't think Corey has the escape rope in the list. That would be the one other way to maybe make something happen here. So just debating what to discard here on a quick ball, thinking between Choice Belt, I think, and Yveltal or Marnie. I think, was that a Marnie?
Yeah, I think it's the Marnie there, holding on to the belt and the Yveltal, just to have some additional reach. Looks like that would be the Luminion, and then you can go for either the Professor's Research or the Marnie if you have a read, but your opponent didn't do too much on that opening turn. You'd think they would have at least tried to go for the second Lugia V if they had an opportunity to. Yeah,
I think if Ciaran's hand was truly unplayable, we wouldn't have seen double Ultra Ball get no Luminion, right? You would have probably fetched out a Luminion. So Corey is probably assuming Ciaran has something, but just with the way his hand is, Research seems much stronger than Marnie is. He's got Yveltal he can throw down, he's got Choice Belt he can throw down, and then just find a fresh hand of 7. Are we seeing any high fives?
You know, he did work one in when we walked by in round 11. We'll see if he's able to get it on stream. It's a tough ask, but we'll be looking for it.
Maybe depends if he wants to fill his bench with the Yveltal. That might be the game deciding.
It almost is worth it just for
the high
memes.
Five.
Yeah.
Choice Belt's probably going on to the Lugia V. You can get there with some numbers with the V-Star Research.
Yeah!
And sure enough, the high 5. 7 fresh cards off of the Professor's Research. It's been a long time since I've seen the high 5 on stream.
Woo! That brings me back.
Ooh, but did Corey miss the V-Star?
Oh.
I don't think he got it. He did not find a Lugia V-Star and is just going to bench a second Lugia V, now only having 1 bench space available. This is basically going to negate Corey's benefit of going first, the fact that he's missing this turn 2 V-Star.
Wow, yeah, found 4 energies along with an Archeops. There's just nothing going on in this hand right now. Has to have the second Lugia, as he is worried about being knocked out on the follow-up, as you mentioned, with the double Ultra Ball. Clearly has something, but there is something clunky going on in there as well, and we are going to find out that answer is the Lugia V-Star. Does get to add the Oranguru into the mix, though, which is nice if you want to hold on to maybe that energy or something.
So Ciaran's got kind of an interesting choice here, it seems. We see the Lugia V-Star, which obviously is going to get evolved. We see the Guru Luminion and an Aurora Energy. With Corey, though, having a bench of 4 with the active Charizard, there's only space for 1 Archeops at the moment. Is there ever a world where Ciaran just kind of waits for a turn, waits for a boss's orders opportunity, and leaves this 3 retreat Charizard in the active?
Yeah, I was looking to see maybe if there was that Raikou featured or something. You can start to sneak in extra damage, but not open up that bench space, and I'm not seeing that featured. But there is certainly potential to slow down a little bit, focus on building up your attackers and finding the boss's orders so that when you do target a Pokemon, it's someone that you actually want to get 2 prize cards on instead of just attacking through this Radiant Charizard and almost helping your opponent.
This could be a great opportunity for Ciaran to get really far ahead here. I will be curious to see if he does go for the knockout on this Charizard or if we just hold off for a turn. Off of this Research, though, does still need a way to put 1 more Archeops down into the discard pile. There is still just the 1 currently. Did not attach an energy yet, so Aurora Energy would be an out there. And I do think that is going to be exactly how he has to do it. Evolution Instance for this Archeops, and Aurora Energy is in the hand.
Yep, there is an easy knockout lined up. Of course, with that Luminion V, you can just cycle straight into that Radiant Charizard, get that V Pokemon off of the board, and feel pretty comfortable. So if the prize card is what Ciaran's after, certainly can take that.
Yeah, I mean, and while it would be nice maybe to try to wait for a turn to go boss KO a 2 prize Pokemon or a Lugia V, it's probably a little bit better to just get ahead on the prize race right away.
Winning. Yeah, winning's pretty great. Usually ends up with 3 match points.
Absolutely. first Archeops being used. Primal Turbo placing the Capture Energy onto the active Dunsparce, allowing it to now retreat, and expect to see 2 more energy cards being placed directly onto the Luminion with that second Primal Turbo, sure enough. And it does seem like Aqua Return is incoming. Bouncing probably back into the Dunsparce, I would imagine.
Yeah, there's nothing really threatening, and if you do have the deck knowledge on your opponent, you're not worried about a Pokemon like Stoutland sneaking in and stealing 2 prize cards and making the math awkward for you. So, seems like a great Pokemon to promote in this stage.
Luminion will be the choice. Aqua Return dealing 240 damage to that Water-weak Radiant Charizard. Corey basically losing his going first advantage, and now is going to be hoping to find a way to get a V-Star. I don't even think there's a good supporter option in his hand currently.
Yeah, the only thing I've learned so far in this match is do not high-five Ciaran. It is a dangerous game, and he will punish you for it.
Draw for turn, and it is an Ultra Ball. But so Ultra Ball can get the Lugia V-Star, and there is a boss's orders in hand. Okay, hang on a second. Is there a world where Corey can boss KO Lugia V-Star for 2 prizes this turn?
I see the hamster wheel turning. I think it's there, Chip. As we already have the powerful energy on this Lugia V. If you want to go ahead and evolve the active, you can certainly take that knockout there with just a few extra powerful energies there.
Ultra Ball being played, Lugia V-Star brought to the front immediately. Just needing 2 more powerful energies. Of course, 220 base damage on that Tempest dive. Powerful energy boosting it by 20 for each of those special energy cards. And of course, Primal Turbo can easily find them from the deck, being activated right away. Searching the deck now, 1, 2 powerful energy to the front, placing them directly onto Lugia V-Star. Just 1 more energy card away, which can be satisfied now by that second Archeops or even an attachment from hand.
Not sure if we've seen the V-Guard energy, but we've seen some players really like to go for that. It doesn't exactly line up in this instance, as if you are going to knock out the Lugia V-Star, that's typically where you see the additional resource being needed there. As the likely answer would be the Evital, as the amazing rare just takes the big knockout return usually.
Yeah, it's actually going to line up nicely for Corey. I think now saving that V-Guard can go on something like his own Evital now, which will make it so that it can't be Aqua Return KO'd, which is a pretty popular choice. Boss's orders, sure enough, bringing up Lugia V-Star. 280 damage from the Tempest dive. Corey goes from not much of a board state to jumping ahead in prizes.
And we see the promotion here of the Archeops to start things off. So a little different in this situation. It is nice to maybe have that option if you want to use that Serena, maybe target down Luminion V. You could take 2 easy prize cards with that Speed Wing if you want to use some of those powerful energies. But you do lose a lot of your resources there, and especially losing access to 2 energies per turn is going to be tough.
I think Ciaran was really crossing his fingers off of that Primate Wisdom to find an out to Evital. He's got Bird Keeper in hand, could draw some cards. If he had found either Capture Energy, Quick Ball, or the Evital itself, maybe even Ultra Ball, he could have found the easy response KO on this Lugia V-Star. As it stands, Primate Wisdom only found him a Marnie to work with. His hand is honestly kind of awkward, and I think we might be looking at the angle of 2-hit KOing this Lugia V-Star now.
Yeah, I wonder if there was ever a world where it was correct to put 2 energies onto the Dunsparce, that when you went for the initial retreat, and then you'd have that as a option to retreat at some point and not have to go for Bird Keeper into top decks.
Bird Keeper being played. If Ciaran had found specifically Capture Energy there, this play still would have worked out, or Quick Ball, I guess, would have still been fine, but he, as it stands, just drew into a bunch more energy cards, which actually makes things a bit more awkward. I think it's looking like it's going to be an Aqua Return now.
Yep, just have to lay some chip damage into this Lugia V-Star, which is never where you want to be. The good news is that you can...
Oh, the Evital was the next card.
No.
So close. Actually, if Ciaran had played the Bird Keeper and then Primate Wisdomed after, he would have seen the Evital, right?
I guess so, yeah. That's something that you have to think about if you're going to be able to extend for that very last card.
Skyla being grabbed off of this Luminous sign from Luminion. Of course, Ciaran has already played his 1 supporter for turn, so just stacking this into the hand, and he's showing, yeah, Evital was the next card. So close to what he wanted exactly. Now he's going to have to settle for just going for a 2-hit knockout. This can line up for maybe a play with his Snorlax. That's, like we mentioned, one of his kind of signature cards in the Lugia deck.
If this lines up without that V-Guard energy, you're going to be able to take a clean knockout, and at least we're working in the chip damage here. And there's only going to be single price Pokemon left on the field.
First Primal Turbo placing 2 energy cards, one of them being a double turbo, the other an Aurora onto Lumineon. Now, second Primal Turbo can place 1 or 2 capture energy onto the active. I guess there is a world where you could go ahead and stack the second one, which is exactly what Ciaran's going to do. It's a little awkward because it takes, I mean, capture energy is the best energy to burn out of the deck, right? But at the same time, it's also your way to find your basic Pokemon later in the game. So it's always kind of weird whenever you see players overcommit them out of the deck. But if you just want to make sure you have that retreat option lined up, I guess it makes sense, right?
Yeah, so many players just think about it on that opening first turn or two just to get all of your typical setup. But how many times do you find yourself looking for that final Pokemon to close the game out and you wish you had that capture energy? But it does make sense in this instance so that you just use it for retreating purposes, as you're probably going to be on the back of those Aurora energies and powerfuls trying to close out when you're already down a prize card and Corey's looking to grab another one here.
Corey with a full bench, 2 Lugia in play, one of them being the V-Star, and a handful of energy cards. I believe 4 energy in this hand, 2 double turbo and 2 capture. Primal Turbo being utilized can fetch another 2 out of the deck, prep something up. This might be a good opportunity to go for that Lumineon Aqua Return, clear up a bench space, and also put this Pokemon back into the deck so that on future turns, you'll be able to fetch it out with something like a Quick Ball.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking as well. We do see double turbo, 2 of those in the hand, so can use at least one of those for retreating, hold on to the second one perhaps if you need to use that amazing rare Evital at some point, and we don't have the Oranguru out, so all these cards are kind of stuck in the hand, so make use of them while you can.
Just debating exactly how he wants to play this. We could see energies going on to the active to retreat, one more coming onto the benched Lumineon. I think it's okay to retreat 1 double turbo and just make sure you have the second one hanging around in case Evital comes up, right?
Yeah, it also just depends on if you think your opponent has the reach to knock out this Lugia V-Star on the following turn. Because if you're going to lose this Pokemon as it's damaged already, you might as well just retreat with the powerful and the capture.
And I think that's what Corey has decided here, choosing not to get any energy cards off that second Primal Turbo. Capture energy now being attached to this Lumineon. And I actually like this decision a lot. It may seem inconsequential, as double turbo or capture attachment would have allowed him to get this knockout on Dunsparce. Now he shuffles in the capture energy. So if Ciaran plays a Marnie, capture energy is now on the deck. In the deck as opposed to being on the bottom of the deck. So it's something he could potentially draw into, right?
Yeah, there were 2 ways that I saw you could go about this. You could throw the Heat Fire on there and, of course, get the knockout anyways with the Lumineon, and then throw a double turbo onto the Amazing Rare Evital if you wanted to promote a Pokemon like that Archeops. Instead, doesn't value the Evital. It looks like this is going to be a game where both players are using these single prize Pokemon, and says, you know what, I probably don't need a card that reads 5 energies knockout for 1 prize.
Ciaran actually drew the collapsed stadium for turns. So that's something that could be pretty strong. Try to limit Corey a decent bit. He was trying to clean up his bench by putting Lumineon back into the deck. You can kind of limit those plays now if you throw down that collapsed.
You could see a world where Corey almost would have welcomed it last turn. Would have been able to remove this Lugia V-Star and likely 2 prize cards that were going to come along with that. And
we see Skyla now being pulled to the front to be played. You can get any trainer card off of this Skyla, any supporter, any stadium, any item card. What does Ciaran want in this spot is the question.
Yeah, what is necessary here to assist in continuing knockouts? There's no card like that Escape Rope featured. We see the Lost Vacuum and the Choice Belt in the list, but just looking at that Ultra Ball, trying to continue to have some attackers lined up.
Yeah, sometimes what you need to get is as simple as finding a way to find another Pokemon. Now, what is the most efficient way to knock out this Evital as well? Something else to consider. Lumineon Aqua Return seems pretty decent. Maybe going with your own Archeops. That's something, it seems like at some point in the game, all players want to attack with an Archeops. It just is a matter of waiting long enough, because if you use them too early, you're going to be cut off from those primal turbos. With Ciaran having 5 prizes still, it might be a little too early to attack with Archeops.
Yeah, I think we're about a prize away from where that starts to feel comfortable. Of course, when you don't see Vs on the other side, then you think that, well, I maybe don't have to work in this Amazing Rare Evital, but there's 2 V Pokemon lined up for knockouts, so if you can get the Evital now and maybe at least get 1 or 2 energies charged up on that Pokemon, you feel a little more comfortable using the Archeops here and having that as a backup plan.
So Ciaran's looking at a couple of cards in the deck, pulling the V-Guard up to the front, also has the Charizard, Lumineon, maybe just to stack energy cards onto the Radiant Charizard. I don't think the V-Guard really helps there. You'd, I think, love to see it go down onto the Evital if you could. He's actually using Primal Turbo before putting Evital in play, so I think, yeah, it's going to be a time to attack with Archeops. Okay.
You're going to knock out the Amazing Rare Evital.
Yep. And now another couple energies being pulled out, and one of them being that V-Guard energy.
And that's a nice way to protect against that Lumineon, as you mentioned earlier on. So you get that 1 energy attached as well, and unfortunately it doesn't line up perfectly with getting all of the Aurora energies down as well. Usually it's you do that in combination with the double turbo, but we'll see if the reach is there. It might have to be just a slower progression to get that Evital rolling.
Second powerful energy being placed onto Archeops. Now knocking out Corey's Evital is Ciaran's Archeops, taking another prize card. Corey's still pretty far ahead here, and now we'll have an opportunity to knock out this Archeops, go down to just 2 prize cards remaining. But the way this is playing out, Ciaran can probably try to avoid putting any 2 prize Pokemon in play until maybe Corey just has 1 prize left, potentially, if he wants.
Yeah, I think if Corey's able to use a card like Marnie soon, then this game kind of flips on its head once more, as everything that Corey's looking to do requires all of the energies that are in his hand right now. So we see the Lumineon there. Maybe if you can shuffle those or put those onto the bottom of your deck and then start to get those accelerated back out once more, you'd feel a little more comfortable against all of the attackers that are almost ready to go on Ciaran's side.
Marnie could be an option. I wonder if Boss could be the play here as well. Take that Evital out before it can get an easy knockout on one of your 2 Lugia, and then force Ciaran to find some other attacker, like that Radiant Charizard maybe. I think is going to be Ciaran's, maybe one of his only options. Of course, we do know he has the Snorlax. That might not be something Corey is necessarily thinking of, as it's not a incredibly popular card.
Yep, as the Lumineon did shuffle in a few energies, there's still some left to play around with.
Yes.
We do see that Boss's orders there lined up, so a few choices. We also saw the Raikou in there too.
Corey, we got to make sure we do the sequencing right here. He did not get a supporter yet off the Lumineon. Maybe he doesn't want one?
He may have just set it to his opponent, but yeah, we'll see.
If I've already attached an energy,
Yeah, I think he just kind of forgot to grab his supporter. Yeah, he benched Lumineon, wanted to grab that Boss. It's right there at the front of his deck.
Okay.
I think Ciaran's like, yeah, we're good, we're good.
I already high-fived you, all right? There's no takesies, backsies from here.
Yeah, good show of
Bros
sportsmanship
for life
there from Ciaran, for sure. Boss's orders is in the hand. Double Turbo as well can be attached to satisfy that other energy requirement for this Lugia to take out Evital, and that's exactly what Corey is going to go for.
Yep, nice find there. Going to take the knockout, and you are going to lose a few prize cards along the way, but that's the benefit of being up the prizes in this point, and it starts to look a little difficult to find the reach on this Lugia V if it is able to turn into a V-Star on the following turn.
Knockout from the Lugia onto that Evital. Ciaran left with just a couple Archeops, also having that Oranguru into play. 100 damage currently on this Lugia. Ciaran needs to find a way to deal 180 more damage with a couple powerful energies. It does line up okay with this Archeops, but is that final powerful colorless energy available to him is the question. There's one in play on the other Archeops. There are 2 on play on the active. Has one been discarded? I don't think one's prized.
Well, I'm looking from Corey's side. I only see the one Aurora that's been played in the discard pile, so there's actually a line to win the game on the following turn with that Raikou. Can take the amazing shot and knock out the Archeops if that's the Pokemon that takes the knockout in combination with the Oranguru.
Yeah, and Ciaran's Manaphy is still in his prizes.
which is huge as we see the quick ball. So if he did have access to it, easily would be countering that play. Which, ironically enough, Corey was trying to do all round 11 and could not find his Manaphy. So he knows what it feels like.
Yeah, I think that this is going to line up for that play for Corey next turn. Ciaran does not have a way to get his Manaphy. It is currently in the prizes. He cannot protect this Oranguru on the bench, and an amazing shot coming from Ciaran, or coming from Corey's side, would just close out the game.
Yep, looking over at the prize cards, is that the Aurora at the top there for Corey?
Oh, that is true, yeah.
That might be an issue then.
That actually, yeah, because he does not play Speed Lightning.
Yeah, it's just the Heat Fire, so actually he's going to be just a little short on that. And that's been a big talking point amongst the Lugia lists and what is the best line to go with. We see Ciaran actually featuring the Hiding Darkness energy in their list, and we see the Heat Fire on Corey's side, so would be a little short. The prize cards doing both players a little dirty here.
Yeah, and the funny thing as well is that neither of them knows that the other one doesn't have access to it, right? Corey might assume after this turn the fact that Ciaran did not grab the Manaphy that it might be prized, and Ciaran might just have to go for this play and hope, okay, maybe my opponent doesn't have it. Maybe they don't play Raikou. Ciaran himself does not play Raikou, so something he might think there's a chance doesn't have. We actually will see the Serena being utilized and retreating into the Radiant Charizard, using that as the attacker here, protecting the energies on the Archeops. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I love this. You get to cash in on the Radiant Charizard now as it is, knock out this Lugia V before it becomes a V-Star, and then you've got the V knockout lined up. You only have to deal 180 damage to either of these Pokemon in the Lumineon or the Lugia V-Star to close out and clean up that prize race that's been looking pretty awkward, which now is actually favorable. There's no way to remove both of these Vs from play for Corey.
And this as well from Ciaran does also play around the Raikou play to the best of his ability, right? He does not have Manaphy, so now by putting down Collapsed Stadium and the Radiant Charizard all at the same time, theoretically it would cut Corey off of being able to Lumineon plus Raikou for boss's orders to close out the game. Obviously, we know Corey can't even go for that with the Aurora energy, but Ciaran, I think, masterfully played to his best out in this spot. And it's a close one here. Lugia Mirror, no fun, who says, right?
Yeah, this has been definitely testing our flowchart knowledge as we've seen the back and forth. So many gusting effects really coming into play here. And it's really been because of the awkward start that Corey had. After he researched and drew into those 7 cards, had to play down that second Lugia, fill the bench a little further than he wanted to, and we saw an interesting exchange back and forth to get us to this point. Now I'm curious if Corey has a little bit more reach, if he can potentially disrupt the hand and just have a single prize Pokemon in the active spot that actually sticks around this turn.
Yeah, as it stands, his best play is going to be to use Lumineon, bounce into an Archeops, and just hope Ciaran does not have a Gust or a Lumineon to close out the game, which is so unlikely. Ciaran's built up this hand over multiple turns.
Yeah, I'm looking at all the different options. You could maybe even put a Lugia down, just have a bunch of hit points in the active spot, but that does a similar thing to having the Archeops. It's just a single prize that you'd give up at that point. We saw Ditto was added into the hand by the prize cards, but it's going to be the Oranguru added as that 4th and final spot due to the collapsed stadium.
I don't see a Marnie either just yet. No way to disrupt. Primate Wisdom being used. I think finding a Quick Ball, was it? Corey actually does only play 2 Marnie, and both of those got discarded turn 1, so he has no disruption option, actually.
And that might be something that Ciaran picked up along the way. Saw a lot of resources down early.
Primate Wisdom has been used. Lugia V being grabbed. Of course, cannot put it in play thanks to that collapsed stadium. Just thinning it out of the deck. And research being played now, drawing 7 fresh new cards. If Ciaran is holding on to a boss's orders, he has the play to win the game. Ciaran actually looking at the Ditto, kind of chuckling to himself. That's absolutely not a card you would expect to see in a Lugia V-Star deck.
That's a shiny. Is that for trade?
Lumineon being utilized, popping up that Archeops. Ciaran pretty quickly going through the motions, sending up this Archeops. Does he have the boss's orders? It looks like he can get it through this Lumineon. Quick Ball finding that Pokemon Luminous Sign, grabbing the boss, and brings up Lugia V-Star. Ciaran Farah going second in this Lugia Mirror, finding a way to win the game.
Wow, and with, what, 28 minutes in that long opening game, that is definitely one that you want to close out and take the win on, as Ciaran is going to take that opening game there. And Corey's got a lot of work to make up for this one. It's probably going to have to be a long game 2 where you try to come out on top, get that 1 match point in the tie. And then both these players would have that opportunity to maybe get a win and then tie into the top 8, as we do have a few rounds left over, as we're only in round 12 now.
Yeah, still plenty of rounds. These players both sitting at an 8-2-1 record at this point coming into this round. Getting to 9-2-1 would put them up to 28 match points. So getting or sorry, 8-1-2 actually. So a little bit more match points there to work with.
They're 26 right now.
Yeah, so getting a win here puts them to 29. Really solid spot to be in.
Yep, and Ciaran also left in a spot where your opponent's going to go first. Maybe they get a really nice start, and you go, you know what? I think I can win a good mirror going first with 15 minutes if I really want to get those 3 match points. Sometimes you just get a read of the situation, see the turn 2 summoning star, and don't want to play the match out.
Gotta say as well, it is really nice to see. It seems like these guys are having fun at the table, and this is what Pokemon's all about. Even though the stakes are high at this point, we're in round 12 of regional championships, they're not letting that get to them. They're enjoying the game, enjoying the camaraderie, right, and just having a good time. Love to see it.
Yeah, some nice bright smiles on the stream. That's what we're all about here. But double Aurora energy, especially with them closer to the top. We know that was a problem last game. It actually almost could have been the victory there for Corey instead. Going to be an issue once more.
Also one of his 2 Marnie as well. We saw that be a factor in game 1. He had to discard both Marnie early on in the game and then was not able to disrupt Ciaran's hand for the entirety of it. Nothing too bad, I don't think, in Ciaran's prizes. The Snorlax and the Stoutland down at the bottom, so yeah, nothing too bad.
Yep, the 1 Lumineon there. 2 is the staple at this point in the format. And okay, that's a turn.
No, that is not what Corey wanted to do. What's actually kind of funny, though, about starting the Ditto is it actually could become a Lugia V-Star next turn, right?
It's all a trap. He's got the research Lugia.
I mean, honestly, this could be okay for Corey. It's going to depend on what is in the rest of the hand. And Ciaran, I think, is maybe respecting the possibility of
he is
this Ditto becoming a Lugia V-Star next turn, using this opportunity to bench his own Lugia, capture energy, bring down a second Lugia V. Does Ciaran, though, have a way to get any Archeops down in the discard pile?
We need the alt art Lugia V that has the Ditto eyes. And then it comes into play.
Oh, gosh.
You're not fooling anybody.
It's Ditto all along. Ciaran now taking a moment to check these prize cards. You definitely, as a Lugia player, want to know how many Pokemon are prized, how many of your energy cards. That's a really vital one. Most of these people playing 16. Corey actually is on 15 energy for this event, so a little bit lower than what we're really used to seeing, but Ciaran is playing kind of the more standard 16 count. Definitely a quick little check of that. He's got a decent amount of them in his hand.
You got to be greedy when you're playing Greedent. If you're going to put it into the deck, you're going to need to open up the spaces, so that makes sense that you're going to lose out there and perhaps on your Marnie count.
I think Ciaran has researched double Archeops in the hand right now.
Ooh.
Yep, sure enough. Play that research, discard 2 Archeops. Corey's like, must be nice.
Oh, man. I remember when I used to do that.
Honestly, that's more worthy of a high five, I think, than the zero card
honestly,
Juniper.
we have to update with the times.
Off of that research, though, Ciaran's hand is actually kind of awkward. 3 energy cards and Archeops, Radiant Charizard, Serena being the only supporter he could potentially play. Corey hoping for a top deck here. What is it? It is a capture. There is the Lugia V-Star in the hand, but no Lugia V in the discard pile to V transform into.
Yeah, we see the Lugia is going to be added, and the V-Star's in hand. Can you ever afford to play this slow? I didn't even see what the supporter was in hand.
I think he's got Boss.
Oh, well, then I don't know if you have a choice.
Yeah, it's going to be a slow burn here in this one. Ditto can attack, stick on, I believe lets you attach an energy from your discard pile to the Ditto. We haven't even gotten a chance to get any of those down just yet. It actually might even just be basic energy that can be attached with the stick on. So it is, yeah, this is looking tough. Corey, this is his first deck search, so it's going to take a moment to check through and figure out what's going on. And yeah, Ditto actually as an attacker, totally useless here, as stick on does only allow you to get basic energy cards.
I mean, it's pretty intimidating, but yeah, other than that, I'm not too worried about that Pokemon.
I wonder if going through Ciaran's mind right now, is he thinking of, is there the chance that my opponent is playing Ditto V Max?
Oh, gosh.
Something you have to wonder. Max transform that attack. Choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this one. Corey, though, not playing that. It is a different V Max that he has in his list.
I guess the one thing that lines up here is you don't mind if your Pokemon gets boss's orders in this spot, as you kind of almost want that. You then get to keep the energies for this Lugia V on the following turn. So honestly, knocking out the Ditto is better.
Yeah, honestly better for sure to just knock out this Ditto. And it does only have 170 hit points, so it's pretty easy to deal with. Ciaran now playing the Skyla. You got to feel like there's a pretty good chance that's going to lead to a Lugia V-Star. Sure enough, Evolution Incense being grabbed. Lugia V-Star now being evolved right away, and this game is going exactly according to plan for Ciaran Farah.
Yeah, this was not a guarantee when we saw that hand off the research, but thankfully was able to find the right cards here, and will have likely a pretty easy knockout here in that Ditto V. Get ahead in the prize race, and it's going to be all up to the top decks of Corey to get things rolling.
Looks like Ciaran as well, before using Primal Turbo, is going to take this opportunity to Primate Wisdom, put an energy card on top so that he can accelerate it, but also it'll allow him to shuffle the deck now. Pretty smart sequencing.
Yep, love seeing that. And we'll see if V-Guard Energy is a card that's focused on at this point. I guess you could expect your opponent to have a fantastic turn here, get the research and draw into all the right cards, get that Lugia V-Star, and then all the powerfuls. If you get that V-Guard down, then you don't have to worry about that sequence.
V-Guard, sure enough, that first energy being grabbed. Ciaran also is holding on to a double turbo energy in the hand, so could attach that pretty easily to this Oranguru in order to retreat it to the bench. Question now for Ciaran is just what other two energy does he want to put onto this Lugia? And it looks like a couple capture, I think, are going to be the choices.
Yeah, don't mind this at all. If you have the opportunity to go ahead and outright win the game or knock out that Lugia V-Star with the 3 powerfuls, you don't even mind throwing them on and just having 7 energies attached to the Lugia, because you're going to be 4 prizes ahead. So go ahead and just use the energies that you need to take the knockout on the Ditto V, and if you can sneak those in later, then just go ahead and throw them all down.
All right, Corey's going to be living on this top deck here, and there's so many possible outs for him. Luminion, Quick Ball, Ultra Ball, Research, Marnie, so many things he could potentially draw in order to get out of this spot. Trying to protect the Ditto as much as he can, but it's not enough. Tempest Dive takes the KO. Draw for turn now on Corey's end. It is an Evolution Incense. Oh, and I think to just even stay in this game, Corey is going to have to go lone Archeops. And, I mean, this just feels like it's a losing position already.
Yeah, there is a boss's orders if you want to steal a prize card. Maybe go after your opponent's Archeops and try to make things interesting there, but you know you're probably going to lose your Lugia V-Star. The one benefit is if you knock out the Archeops, then it's hard for your opponent to find that powerful energy to take the knockout in this stage if they don't already have it in hand, as you're only going to be able to accelerate 2 from the Primal Turbo, and then, of course, you have to have that last one already ready to go if you want to hit 280.
Yeah, I think Boss Archeops is actually probably Corey's best play. It's awkward, and it's not what you really want to do, but for that exact reason you mentioned, now it would mean Ciaran is going to have a harder time responding to this Lugia V-Star.
Solo Dolo Bird.
It always feels so painful. It really does. Because the deck is so powerful when it does exactly what it's meant to do, and then you get situations in games like this, and it's just like, man, this is really what I'm playing for this regional championships.
Right. What am I supposed to do with these guys? I'm over here flying in coach, and this guy's first class, going after the Lugia.
Yeah, he's actually going to chase down the prize cards here, and this is a dangerous spot because Ciaran could absolutely get a one-hit KO on this Lugia V-Star this turn, either through his own Lugia V-Star with a couple of powerful colorless energies, or through something like that Eviltal.
Okay, I don't know if that was placed from the Oranguru, but I'm going to react either way.
It was not. It was shuffled. So.
Yeah, so, I mean, if he had knocked out the Archeops, that would have been insanity. To see the power, B1 powerful needed to take the knockout there. Regardless, it's still cool to see, and now Oranguru is like, you know what? I actually didn't need you. I needed you in the other sequence, but there's a capture.
And capture could find the Eviltal. Now, Ciaran has to wonder, what is the better play? Do I want to go for that Lugia V-Star, commit a bunch of extra energy cards, or is it Eviltal time? And I feel like Eviltal seems pretty decent here. It can be knocked out by the Archeops pretty easily in response, but this might be your best time to use it this game for 2 prizes.
Yeah, the only other thing I'm curious about is what knocks out a Lugia at this stage. If you are able to knock out this Archeops,
That's
you
true
just
as
win
well.
the game.
Yeah.
There's no response. There was the Serena in hand. Of course, that can't target it down. So if you do get to find that boss's orders, that has to be nearly sealing this.
Yeah, I think he has Lumineon in hand, so he does have that path. We see all these powerful energy being brought to the front, so is definitely surveying the options here. Do I want to go for the prizes on the Lugia currently, or is that something I feel like I'm going to be able to knock out at any point in the game? And I think, well, yeah, okay. I think we're going in for that Lugia knockout.
Yeah, I can understand this because there is the worry that maybe you play that Lumineon, then your opponent just has another boss in hand. Their hand's been clunky and bad, but they'd have 4 prize cards.
Yeah, what if Corey goes boss V-Guard next turn, right?
Yeah, and you could be in a really weird spot. So this is that other situation we talked about where it feels weird to have 7 energies, but it's strictly correct. Just throw them all down, and your opponent now has to find a way to knock out this Pokemon. The only way to do that is Raikou with a belt, and you have to have the Aurora energy ready to go, and you have to retreat an Archeops.
So this is a little bit of a risky spot because that is something Corey could do, but it would have to be a very specific sequence of cards. It would have to be like...
I think it's impossible.
It has
to be Bird Keeper.
Yeah,
too,
it would have to be Bird Keeper, which
isn't
in his list. But I mean, Ciaran has to consider all these things as
Right.
options, right? So it would literally have to have been bench Raikou, Bird Keeper, into an Aurora, accelerate 2 Auroras, find the choice belt, boom, take a knockout. That's the punish here. Corey doesn't even play the Bird Keeper, so it's not really worth spending too much time on. But yeah, it's all absolutely something Ciaran was potentially thinking about.
That would have been sick.
Yeah, and it's such a low odds when your opponent's done nothing all game that they would even have something close to that.
Corey would actually be winning the game if he did it. As it would take him down to 1 prize, he'd have 2 single prize Pokemon in play. It would have been so cool.
Here's something, though, that could get a knockout.
There's the belt in this list, right?
Yes, yeah, it does have that option. Finds the belt right now. Does he have an energy card in the hand to retreat this Archeops is the question. This actually is the more straightforward punish for Corey here.
Yeah, so often you think about that V-Guard and you're like, oh, I'm safe, right? No, Radiant Charizard does not care. It lines up great here, and the fact that Ciaran is down to just those 2 prize cards going to be a little bit of a punish with the excited heart.
I think Corey here is looking for the Heat Fire energy, but we know it's actually in the prize cards. Oh, no, I think he actually took it off the prizes because it was one of the bottom prizes. He took 2 prizes, so he has Heat Fire. Yes, it is in the hand. All right, Combustion Blast. Here we go. And Lumineon now in hand for next turn.
Got to also accelerate an energy to the Archeops that sticks around, that powerful energy, which could be nice. And look at that, Corey.
The game is tied, Kyle.
Prize exchange there. 7 energies down as well.
And now this Radiant Charizard actually has 180 hit points as well.
Has to be Fish.
It has to be the Lumineon. Now Archeops not an option to take this KO.
If I see a Raikou come out of nowhere, I'm done. I don't know if my heart can take this.
I mean, he has an Aurora in the hand. I mean, it's possible here. Ciaran, I think, would love to try to bench Manaphy. That's definitely something he should try to do this turn. Play around every possible option from the opponent. Maybe you go boss KO the Archeops. Maybe Ciaran's wishing he'd done that last turn now.
We see the boss added to the hand. I don't know if you're able to use this, however, because you wouldn't be able to take the knockout with the Lumineon into the Archeops. So has to be the Radiant Charizard that's removed from play here. And I don't think the Raikou lineup works either, as we see the 1 Aurora prized and 1 that was used early on to get the Archeops into the discard pile. So
that's right,
once again, stuck with that.
So Raikou just coming up a little short once again for Corey. So I think the dream, it's looking bleak. It's looking bleak. Ciaran here attaching an Aurora energy, just thinning this Archeops out of the hand. Absolutely something you do not want in the deck any longer. Benching that Snorlax, one of his signature cards, like we mentioned, does have the Manaphy in hand. Maybe not going to play around the Raikou, has seen no indication of it, no Speed Lightning, no Raikou in game 1. So maybe he thinks his opponent may not play it. Using this second Primal Turbo can search the deck for 2 more energy, maybe load them up on this Snorlax, get it ready to be able to attack and knock out this Radiant Charizard. That's a Pokemon that does not care about how much HP your Radiant Charizard gains from that Heat Fire energy.
Yep, that would line up fairly well against Radiant Charizard. However, I think we're going to see the Lumineon V
Yeah.
take that knockout. And my only question now is if there's one more powerful left. I don't think, even if there is, I guess you'd be able to work around the hit. You wouldn't be able to work around the hit points of Lugia V unless you already use your Radiant Charizard. So as far as options for Corey to attack with, that's going to be pretty interesting to see next turn.
And Ciaran can also close out the game with his own Radiant Charizard, potentially using that Oranguru for now. I think put that Pumpkaboo on the top of the deck. Going to now thin at this point. Grab this Lugia V-Star from the deck. And I think Aqua Return is incoming. Tons of cards in the hand. Bench the Charizard. Give yourself any Pokemon that can just try to attack and close out the game next turn. And it's honestly one of the better Pokemon to jump into as well, either that Snorlax or the Charizard, as they have such a high amount of hit points.
Yeah, what a game from Corey to get to this point. Ciaran trying to close the door. Going to get that one prize card remaining. Snorlax in the active.
Corey hoping for a
card.
deck.
What is it?
It
Finds
is a
the
research.
I guess Lumineon would have found that anyways, so probably not the card we were looking for.
Is there any line here for Corey? What could his play possibly be to stick around in this game? He's got 3 supporters, has so many options available to him, but what could he do?
Incisors.
Not that's just for the heck of it, right?
Yeah,
at that point.
Of course.
For the people, Corey, come on.
Yeah, I'm not sure what else could be found in this situation. Of course, the acceleration is going to be limited to just those 2 energies from the Archeops, 1 from the hands. Lumineon going to take a peek at the deck.
Ciaran has done a good job of pretty much setting up checkmate here, even if, like, if only Radiant Charizard came down and not the Snorlax, maybe Corey could have gone with this Lumineon, boss's orders, KO the Charizard, and then, yeah, Corey recognizes there's just nothing he can do. Ciaran set it up nicely, the checkmate scenario, benching both Snorlax and Radiant Charizard. And Ciaran gets the 2-0 victory, even after going second in game number 1, found a way to get the win.
Yeah, that was beautiful from Ciaran. Just looking at every single time that we got to the end game, he set up a beautiful scenario that played around any of the 5 potential random cards that could have been thrown into Corey's list. Escape Rope he was ready for.
Yeah.
Raikou he was ready for. Every time he had a Pokemon with over 120 hit points, ready in the active, a Pokemon ready to switch into, thought of everything and was able to close out there. And that's going to lead to 29 match points for our Canadian player.
And Corey, I think now at this point being at 26 match points, 2 rounds left, definitely not out of it. A couple of wins gets him to 32. That would be enough to get into top 8, but it's going to have to be 2 wins in a row. So there's still hope. There's still a chance for that Greedent VMAX.
Yeah, maybe he finds one of the couple lost box that's sliding around in there. They're starting to fall to the wayside, but maybe they're at that that 26 match point spot.
Yeah, so congratulations, Ciaran, getting the win. While we're waiting for our interview to get set up, a couple updates we can give. Zach Lesage moving to 10-1-1, dethroning Daniel Zoe, our previous first seed, with Zach's own Arceus Duraludon deck. 10-1-1. What do we think of that, Kyle?
I know one of our people who's interested in that.
Boo, yeah.
Miss Boo is very excited to hear that news, as that basically means that Zach should be locked in for our top 8. I see a couple other names there. Ian Robb finding another victory against Grant Manley.
Yeah.
I guess I should just say Manley, as
he lost the battle of the Grants.
He lost that Grant battle, and that was a Lugia V-Star mirror match. So good on Ian to continue once more.
Cameron Shinoy got the win. Our Vikavolt that they talked about at the top of the show, right? Got the win. 9-2-1, 28 match points. Gonna effectively be playing 2 win-in-ins in a row. 1 win-in-in next round, and then potentially ID into cut, right?
Yep.
So we'll see if Vikavolt can get in there. Caleb Gettimer, 9-2-1 with Lugia. Archeops was able to defeat Marvin in the last round, so he moves to 9-2-1, similar spot, looking for that win-in-in. Dalton Cross, Stefan Tobacco, last couple 9-2-1s that have kind of wrapped up this round as well.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little more on Ian Robb, as I believe he was either the 9th or 10th place finisher in Knoxville. He was right there on the cusp, almost made it, and was really disappointed that he lost a game to Grant Shen playing the Arceus Duraludon. He despises that deck so much, and he has had to play against it at least once this tournament, and he had some choice words for it, was not very excited to play against it, and he's making his way through once more. If he runs into a few of those, if he plays against Zach Lesage and perhaps takes a loss there, that would be heartbreaking for Ian, as he really wants to make another top 8 and potentially get, what would this be, his 5th regional win or something ridiculous?
Yeah, he's won 4, which is pretty wild for as young of a player as he is. And he also, like you mentioned, he got top 16 in Knoxville. He actually also got top 16 in Orlando just before as well. Didn't go to OCIC. He was playing Palkia down in Orlando. Didn't quite work. Exactly.